Admiral Susan Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, her back straight and her gaze fixed on the viewscreen. The massive alien ship approaching Earth looked like a silver leaf, thin at the edges and bulging in the center. It was beautiful, in a strange way. Behind her, the bridge crew worked in tense silence. This was the moment humanity had prepared for over decades. First contact with the Galactic Council. "They're hailing us, Admiral," said Lieutenant Paul Gordon, his fingers steady on the communications panel despite the sweat on his forehead. "Open the channel," Wright ordered. Her voice was calm, betraying none of the excitement or fear she felt inside. The viewscreen flickered and 3 alien figures appeared. The alien in the center had features like a bird of prey, with golden feathers and sharp eyes that seemed to look through Wright rather than at her. To its left stood a being made of what looked like blue crystal, catching and reflecting light in hypnotic patterns. The third alien was strangest of all, a swirling cloud of purple gas contained in a transparent suit. "I am Ambassador Calvex." "Of the Galactic Council," the bird-like alien said in perfect English. "These are my associates, Luminous Thought from the Luminary and Void Whisper of the Voidborn. We represent the United 27 spacefaring species of this galactic sector." Wright nodded once. "Admiral Susan Wright of the United Earth Defense Fleet, welcome to our solar system." Calvex tilted his head in what might have been a smile. Or a grimace. "We have been observing your species for some time, Admiral. Your rapid technological advancement is remarkable. The Council has decided it is time to officially welcome humans into the galactic community. We appreciate that." Wright replied, though she did not smile. Intelligence reports had warned her what this welcome would likely entail, the crystalline being called. Luminous Thought spoke next, its voice sounding like wind chimes. "The transition of a new species into the wider galaxy can be difficult. The Council has existed for 12,000 years to ensure peace and stability, and what exactly does this welcome involve?" Wright asked, though she already knew the answer. Calvex straightened his feathered body. "Earth will be granted protected status. You will benefit from Council oversight and technology sharing. In return, you will agree to Council-approved resource quotas and military limitations. After a probationary period of 200 years, humans may petition for full membership." The bridge fell silent. Several crew members exchanged glances. This was exactly what Earth's intelligence had predicted. "And if we decline?" Wright asked. The gaseous alien, Void Whisper, spoke for the first time, its voice surprisingly deep. "No developing species has ever declined. The benefits are too great, the alternatives too, unpleasant." Wright smiled then, a small, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm afraid I must decline your offer, Ambassador." Calvex blinked. Rapidly, his feathers rising slightly. "Perhaps you misunderstand. This is not merely an offer. The Council has determined this is the best path for humanity's integration." "No, Ambassador, I understand perfectly," Wright said. "You want to control our military capabilities, limit our resource use, and keep us under your thumb for 2 centuries? Earth declines." The crystalline being flickered with pulses of light. "Admiral Wright, without Council protection, other species may see Earth as available for exploitation. Is that a threat?" Wright asked, her voice hardening. "Simply a reality," Calvex said smoothly. "The galaxy can be dangerous for isolated worlds." Wright looked at each alien in turn. "You should know that we've been watching you too." The alien stared at her, clearly. Not understanding. Wright nodded to Lieutenant Gordon, who tapped a command into his console. The viewscreen split to show images of Council ships harvesting resources from planets with primitive civilizations, weapons tests on uninhabited worlds, and classified Council meetings. "We've had probes beyond our solar system for longer than you realize," Wright explained. "We know how the Council treats its protected worlds. We know about the experiments on developing species. We know which Council members have been planning to mine Earth's core elements once we're under your control." Calvex's feathers flattened against his body. "This is unexpected." "There's a lot about humans you'll find unexpected, Ambassador," Wright said. "We're declining your offer. Earth will remain independent." This is unacceptable, Void Whisper billowed angrily. The Council has protocols, procedures, all species must comply. Not this one, Wright said firmly. Luminous Thought's crystal body pulsed with rapid flashes. Admiral, these images are concerning, but surely we can negotiate terms more favorable to Earth. We're not interested in negotiating, Wright said. Not on these terms. Not with a council that lies about its intentions. Kelvex leaned forward. Consider carefully, Admiral. The Council represents 27 advanced civilizations. Earth stands alone. Does it? Wright asked. She nodded again to Lieutenant Gordon, who entered another command. The view screen changed to show sensor readings from Earth's lunar bases. Energy signatures pulsed across the display, readings that indicated technology far beyond what humanity was supposed to possess. What is this? Kelvex demanded. Insurance, Wright answered simply. We've been preparing for this meeting for generations. We hoped the Council would approach us as equals. Since you haven't, we're prepared to defend ourselves. These readings cannot be accurate, Void Whisper said, swirling rapidly in its containment suit. Your species lacks the capability to generate such power. As I said, Ambassador, you'll find humans full of surprises. Kelvex's eyes narrowed. You are making a grave mistake, Admiral Wright. The Council will not accept this defiance. That's not my problem, Wright replied. This meeting is over. You have 6 hours to leave our solar system. This is unprecedented. Kelvex sputtered. Then I suggest you hurry back to the Council and report it, Wright said. Lieutenant Gordon, end transmission. The screen went dark. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Do you think they'll leave peacefully? Gordon asked. They will, Wright said. They need to report back. The Council won't know what to do with a species that refuses to play by their rules. Commander Ryan Nelson approached from his tactical station. Admiral, we're detecting unusual scans from the Council ship. They're probing our lunar bases and asteroid belt installations, Wright nodded. Let them look. Director Carter's intelligence operatives made sure they'll see exactly what we want them to see. Across the solar system, on a hidden base buried beneath the lunar surface, Frank Carter watched the alien ship on his monitors. His team of intelligence officers worked quickly, manipulating what the aliens would detect. Not lies exactly, but carefully curated truths. They're taking the bait, his assistant Diane Miller reported. Their scans are focusing on the quantum facilities. Carter nodded with satisfaction. Good, make sure they get readings on the 0 point. Energy fluctuations. Not enough to understand how it works, just enough to worry them. On the Council ship, Kelvex and his associates reviewed the scan data with growing alarm. This cannot be possible, Luminous Thought chimed anxiously. These humans have technology that contradicts Council science. Their power generation methods. I cannot understand the principles. More concerning is what they know about us, Void Whisper said. Those images were from secure Council operations. How did they acquire them? Kelvex paced the command deck. We must return to Council space immediately. Supreme Leader Raxviewer must be informed. This changes everything. As the alien ship accelerated away from Earth, Admiral Wright watched. From her ready room window, the first phase of humanity's plan had worked perfectly. The Council had expected submission and found defiance instead. Now the real game would begin. Admiral, Gordon's voice came through the intercom. The alien vessel has left our solar system. Excellent, Wright replied. Contact all outposts. Operation Sleeping Giant is now active, and get me a secure line to President Powell. He'll want to address the United Nations immediately. As Wright turned from the window, she allowed herself a small smile. The Galactic Council had no idea what they had just started. Supreme Leader Rax Viewer of the Galactic Council paced across the Grand Chamber floor, his 4 arms clasped behind his back. The enormous circular room was filled with representatives from all 27 member species, and none of them were happy. The emergency session had been called the moment Ambassador Kelvex returned from Earth with his disturbing report. The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation, a mix of electronic voices, telepathic emissions, and spoken words in 100 different languages, all translated by the Council's advanced systems. Silence. Raxvier called, his deep voice echoing. Through the chamber, the noise died down immediately. You have all received Ambassador Calvex's report. For the first time in Council history, a developing species has refused protected status. Not only refused, but threatened us with technology they should not possess. General Krath of the Zkatar military rose from his seat, his golden feathers bristling with anger. This human defiance cannot stand. We should send a battle fleet immediately to show them the consequences of such disrespect. Many representatives chittered or flashed their agreement, but Eternal Crystal, the eldest of the Luminari, glowed softly in disagreement. We must proceed with caution. These humans knew about our covert operations. They have technology our sensors cannot properly analyze. Aggression may be exactly what they expect, Raxvier nodded slowly. Both views have merit. That is why I have called this emergency session. We must decide on our response to this unprecedented situation. Meanwhile, back in Earth's solar system, Frank Carter stood in the command center deep beneath the lunar surface. Large screens displayed real-time data from probes scattered throughout nearby star systems. Carter was Earth's intelligence director, and for the past 15 years he had coordinated the most extensive espionage operation in human history. Status report, Carter said to the room of analysts and technicians. Diane Miller looked up from her console. Council communication networks are buzzing with activity. Our language processing AI confirms they're in full panic mode. The recording of Admiral Wright's meeting with the ambassadors has been shared with all 27 Council species. Carter smiled slightly. Good, in our defensive grid. All systems operational, replied Sam Allen, the defense systems coordinator. The asteroid belt installations are powered up but running in passive mode just as planned. Mars Defense Colony reports all systems green. Jupiter and Saturn outposts are on standby. Carter nodded with satisfaction. Humanity had prepared for this moment for generations. What the Council didn't know was that Earth had discovered an ancient alien outpost on Pluto 70 years ago. The technology they found there had accelerated human development by centuries. More importantly, it had warned them about the Galactic Council and its true nature. What about our deep space monitoring? Carter asked. Miller tapped her screen and brought up a new display. We've detected Council spy ships entering the outer reaches of our solar system. Small vessels, likely automated or with minimal crew. They're being careful to stay outside the orbit of Neptune. Let them look, Carter said. Make sure they see exactly what we want them to see. In a different part of the solar system, on a secret military base buried deep within Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter, Colonel Joe Bennett supervised the activation of Earth's most advanced defensive weapons. The systems weren't powered up to full capacity. That would give away too much. But they were running system. Checks that would be detectable to the Council's spy ships. Keep the power levels at 30%, Bennett instructed his team. We want them to know we have something, but not exactly what. Back at Galactic Council headquarters, Ambassador Calvex stood before the assembled representatives, finishing his detailed report. The humans knew about our observations. They knew about resource extraction operations on other protected worlds. Most concerning of all, they have technology that our science division cannot explain. Whispers and clicks of alarm spread through the chamber. Miss-ancient-knowledge. The senior scientist of the Voidborn floated forward in her containment suit. I have analyzed the sensor readings from the human solar system. Their energy signatures do not match any known technology in our database. Some readings suggest they may have discovered principles our scientists have only theorized about. How is this possible? Demanded Representative Golther of the Insectoid Hive Collective. Humans evolved on a single planet. Their civilization is barely 10,000 years old. They should be centuries away from such discoveries. Unknown, replied Mist of Ancient Knowledge, her gaseous form swirling with agitation. But there is more. Our spy vessels report human activity far beyond what our previous observations indicated. They have extensive installations throughout their solar system. And most concerning, she paused dramatically, We have detected quantum communication signatures that suggest they may have outposts beyond their home system. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. Raxvir had to call for order several times before the noise subsided. Impossible, General Krath shouted. Our patrols would have detected interstellar travel from their system. Not if they use technology we don't understand, Eternal Crystal chimed softly. Not if they found ways to move that we haven't discovered. On Earth, President Gregory Powell sat in the Oval Office, reviewing Carter's latest intelligence report. The Council's panic was proceeding exactly as predicted. Powell had been elected 3 years ago, largely because of his strong stance on galactic independence. As one of the few world leaders fully briefed on the Pluto discovery, he understood what was at stake. His secretary announced the arrival of Admiral Wright, who entered the office still in her formal uniform. Mr. President, she said, Phase 1 is complete. The Council is responding exactly as Director Carter predicted. Powell nodded. Good work, Admiral. Please sit down. What's your assessment of their likely next move? Wright took a seat across from him. Based on our intelligence, they'll be divided. The militaristic species like the HFY will push for a show of force. The older species like the Luminari will urge caution. In the end, they'll compromise, probably a limited military action designed to scare us back to the negotiating table. And we'll be ready, Powell said with confidence. Yes, sir. Our Europa outpost is prepared to serve as the bait. All personnel are on alert but will evacuate to subsurface shelters at the first sign of Council ships. The automated defense systems will remain operational, giving the appearance of an abandoned outpost. Powell looked out the window at the clear blue sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, an interstellar drama was unfolding. It's strange to think about it. Thousands of years wondering if we were alone in the universe, only to discover that the galaxy is full of life that immediately tried to control us. That's why we have to succeed, sir, Wright replied firmly. Not just for Earth, but for all the species the Council has manipulated over the millennia. Back at Council headquarters, after hours of heated debate, Supreme Leader Raxvir called for a vote. We have heard all arguments. The humans have rejected our offer and refused communication. They possess technology that threatens Council stability. We must respond. General Krath's proposal for a limited military operation was approved by a narrow margin. A Council battle group would be dispatched to neutralize the human outpost on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The goal was not to start a war, but to demonstrate Council power and force humans back to negotiations. As the Council session ended, Eternal Crystal approached Mist of Ancient Knowledge privately. These humans, they are unlike any species we've encountered before, aren't they? The gaseous being swirled thoughtfully. Indeed, they have no natural defenses, yet they've survived on a planet with apex predators. They have no unified government, yet they present as one voice when threatened. They lack our technology yet? They seem unimpressed by our power. Perhaps, chimed Eternal Crystal, we are making a grave mistake. As the Council prepared its battle fleet, humanity waited patiently. In underground bases across the solar system, men and women monitored the Council's movements, analyzed their communications, and prepared for the coming confrontation. They had refused to negotiate not out of arrogance, but because they knew the truth about the Galactic Council, and soon the rest of the galaxy would know it too. The Council battle fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter, a formation of 7 warships that resembled silver arrowheads. They moved with practiced precision toward Europa, the ice-covered moon that housed one of humanity's outer system outposts. On the command deck of the lead vessel, Fleet Commander Zextal of the HFY studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Scan again, he ordered his crew. Where are their defense systems? A blue-skinned Aquari technician worked her control panel. Scans show minimal power signatures, Commander. The human outpost appears to be almost abandoned. Zextal's feathers ruffled with suspicion. This didn't match the intelligence reports. The Europa base was supposed to be a significant installation with at least 500 human personnel. Now their sensors showed only a handful of energy signatures consistent with human life forms. It could be a trap, suggested his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Krith. Or they fled when they detected our approach, Zextal replied. Prepare landing parties. We will secure the facility and demonstrate Council authority. 4 smaller vessels detached from the fleet and descended toward Europa's icy surface. As they approached the human outpost, a collection of dome-like structures half buried in the ice, their sensors remained quiet. No defense systems activated. No weapons locked onto them. The apparent ease of their mission made the Council forces even more nervous. Deep beneath Europa's icy crust, in a hidden facility 3 kilometers below the surface outpost, Dr. Olivia Martinez watched the alien ships land on her monitors. Around her, a team of scientists and military personnel tracked every movement of the Council forces. They were in a vast chamber carved out of the moon's subsurface ocean, now frozen in place by advanced cooling systems. The chamber housed the real Europa base, home to nearly 1,000 personnel and some of Earth's most advanced technology. They've taken the bait, Martinez said into her communicator. All Council landing parties are focusing on the surface. Facility. Roger that, replied Commander Sam Daniels from the security center. All personnel are safely below. Surface structures are empty except for automated systems? Martinez nodded with satisfaction. Maintain observation. Remember, we don't engage unless they attempt to harm our people or destroy critical infrastructure. On the surface, Council troops in environmental suits moved through the seemingly abandoned human facility. They found workstations still active, food in what appeared to be a dining area, and personal items that suggested the humans had left in a hurry. Sir, a Council soldier called to his squad leader, look at this. On a screen in what appeared to be a control room, a message flashed in multiple languages. Welcome, Council forces. Your presence has been noted. Please enjoy your tour of our facility. We look forward to your departure. The squad leader stared at the message, unsure whether to be angered or unnerved by the humans' apparent confidence. Back on the Council command ship, Fleet Commander Zextal received the reports from his landing parties with growing frustration. They knew we were coming, he said to his officers. They evacuated deliberately, leaving behind this this mockery. Commander, called the sensor officer suddenly, we're detecting new energy signatures. Multiple vessels approaching from behind Jupiter's moons. Before Zextal could respond, a fleet of human ships appeared, seemingly materializing from nowhere. They were sleek, dark vessels that resembled predatory sea creatures from Earth's oceans. They moved with impossible speed, surrounding the Council fleet before any evasive action could be taken. How did they avoid our sensors? Zextal demanded. Battle stations. Prepare to, sir, interrupted his communications officer. We're receiving a transmission from the human vessels. The main view screen activated to show a human woman with dark skin and close-cropped hair. She wore a simple blue uniform with minimal insignia. Council vessels, this is Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered restricted space and targeted a civilian research outpost. You will power down your weapon systems immediately and prepare to be escorted. From the Jupiter system, Zextal bristled at her tone. This is Fleet Commander Zextal of the Galactic Council. We are conducting a sanctioned security operation. Your outpost is in violation of Council directives. Stand down your vessels or face the consequences. Rodriguez's expression didn't change. I'll give you 1 minute to comply, Commander. After that, we will take action. This is absurd, Zextal spat. Our fleet outguns yours. Your technology is inferior. You have no standing to make demands. Rodriguez simply looked at someone off-screen and nodded. The transmission ended. Weapons hot, Zextal ordered. Target the nearest human vessel, and his tactical officer looked up in confusion. Sir, weapon systems are not responding. Drive. Systems are also offline? Throughout the Council fleet, the same situation was playing out. Systems were shutting down one by one, leaving only life support and basic communications active. The ships hung in space, powerless dot from the hidden base beneath Europa's surface. Dr. Martinez watched as the neutralization field did its work. The technology, reverse-engineered from the ancient alien outpost found on Pluto, allowed humans to selectively disable energy systems at a distance. It was one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets, and this was its first use against the Council. "Field is stable," reported her chief engineer, Alan Walsh. "All Council ships are effectively neutralized," Martinez nodded. "Perfect. Inform Captain Rodriguez she can proceed with the escort." On the bridge of her ship, the UES Horizon, Captain Rodriguez watched as the Council vessels floated helplessly. She had dreamed of this moment ever since joining the Earth Defense Fleet 15 years ago. Humanity standing up to the bullies of the galaxy, not with violence, but with superior technology and strategy. "All Council vessels are neutralized, Captain," her tactical officer reported. "Good," Rodriguez replied. "Maintain the field and inform the landing parties to return to their ships. Once they're aboard, we'll escort the fleet back to the boundary of our solar system." On the Council command ship, Zextal raged as his crew frantically tried to restore their systems. "What is this technology? How can they disable our ships without firing a shot?" His science officer, a luminary named Prismatic Insight, chimed thoughtfully. "It appears to be some form of targeted energy dampening field. Nothing in our database suggests humans should possess such capability." "The Council must be informed," Zextal said grimly. "These humans are far more dangerous than we anticipated." As the human fleet surrounded them, Zextal had no choice but to order his landing parties to return. With their ships under external control, the Council forces could only watch as they were escorted away from Jupiter, their mission a complete failure. Back on Earth, President Powell addressed an emergency session of the United Nations. Representatives from all nations watched as he explained what had just occurred in the Jupiter system. The Galactic Council attempted to intimidate U.S. with a show of force, Powell said, his voice steady and determined. "They targeted our research outpost on Europa, believing we would respond with either submission or violence. Instead, we demonstrated that humanity can defend itself without firing a shot." He paused, looking around the Great Hall. "For centuries, we wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now we know the truth. The galaxy is filled with life, with civilizations far older than our own. But age does not equal wisdom, and advanced technology does not equal moral authority." The hall was silent as Powell continued. "The Council expected us to negotiate from a position of weakness, to accept their terms for our future. We refused because we know their true nature. They are not benevolent guides, but oppressors who maintain power by keeping other species dependent and divided." Powell's voice grew stronger. "Humanity will not fire the first shot in any conflict, but make no mistake, we will not be colonized. We will not be protected, and we will not be guided by those who see us as lesser beings. Earth stands ready to build relationships with other species based on mutual respect and cooperation, but we will never surrender our independence." As Powell spoke, news of the Council's failed mission spread across their territories. On dozens of worlds, citizens began to question what they had been told about humans. If Earth could repel a Council fleet without violence, what other Council claims might be false? The carefully maintained order of thousands of years began to show its first cracks. Ambassador Kelvex stood before the Supreme Council, his feathers drooping with the shame of failure. "The humans knew we were coming," he reported. "They evacuated their personnel but left their facility intact. They surrounded our fleet with vessels our sensors couldn't detect until it was too late. They disabled our ships without firing a single shot." Supreme Leader Rax Vuras' 4 hands clenched into fists. "And what is your assessment, Ambassador?" Kelvex looked up, his eyes filled with a new emotion rarely seen in AZ Katar: fear. "My assessment, Supreme Leader, is that we have greatly underestimated the humans. They knew about us long before we contacted them. They were prepared. And the most terrifying part is that they're still waiting for something. This was not their full response. It was merely a warning. The Great Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives shouted over one another, some demanding immediate military action against Earth, others calling for diplomatic solutions. The failed mission to Europa had sent shockwaves through the 27-member species. Supreme Leader Rax Vur struggled to maintain order as the governing body of the galaxy tore itself apart with argument. "Silence!" he finally roared, his patience exhausted. "This bickering solves nothing. We must present a unified response to the human problem." Eternal Crystal of the Luminari floated forward, her crystalline body glowing with a soft blue light. "Perhaps there is no human problem to solve?" she chimed, her voice cutting through the noise. "Perhaps the problem lies with us." Angry murmurs rippled through the chamber. General Krath of the Zkatar stepped forward, his golden feathers bristling. "What nonsense is this? The humans have defied Council authority and humiliated our fleet. They must be brought to heel. With what forces?" asked Eternal Crystal. "They disabled our ships without firing a shot. They have technology we don't understand. And most importantly, they have knowledge they should not possess about our operations." Mist of Ancient Knowledge joined her fellow council member. "The Luminari speaks truth. My analysis of human communications intercepted since the Europa incident shows they are sharing information about Council activities with their entire population. Information about resource extraction on protected worlds. Information about species kept in technological stasis for centuries. Information about experiments on developing worlds." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "How did they obtain this information?" Raxvur asked quietly. "Unknown," replied Mist of Ancient Knowledge. "But the data they possess is accurate." Eternal Crystal's glow intensified. "I have made a decision. The Luminari withdraw from this council action. Against Earth, we will establish independent diplomatic relations with humans." The announcement sent fresh shock waves through the chamber. The Luminari were founding members of the Council, one of the oldest and most respected species in known space. 3 other representatives quickly stood to join them, the philosophical Arons, the trade-focused Mercanti, and the scientific Kuntari. "This is treason," shouted General Krath. "It is survival," replied Eternal Crystal calmly. "The humans have shown they will not be bullied or controlled. They have also shown remarkable restraint. They could have destroyed our fleet at Europa, but chose not to harm a single council citizen. I believe they may be more worthy of alliance than many at this table." As the council fractured, a small diplomatic vessel approached Mars. It carried representatives from the 4 species who had broken from the council's position on Earth. Lieutenant Commander Peter Blackwood waited in the new Interstellar Diplomatic Center, a sleek facility built into the side of Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. At 42, Blackwood was one of Earth's most experienced diplomats, having worked with every nation on the home planet before being selected to head humanity's new diplomatic corps. "They're on final approach," his assistant informed him. "The Luminari representative requested to speak with you first, alone," Blackwood nodded. "Prepare the main reception area for the full delegation afterward. And make sure the secure feeds to Earth, Luna, and Europa are active. President Powell and the other leaders will want to observe." The Luminari ship landed gracefully on the Martian surface. A single figure emerged, floating rather than walking down the ramp. Harmonious Refraction, as the crystalline being called, itself glowed with shifting patterns of blue and purple light as it approached the human facility, inside a specially designed meeting room with atmosphere. Controls to accommodate various species, Blackwood greeted the alien diplomat. "Welcome to Mars, Harmonious Refraction. I am Lieutenant Commander Peter Blackwood of Earth's Interstellar Diplomatic Corps." The crystalline being pulsed with light. "Thank you for receiving me, Lieutenant Commander. I represent not only the Luminari but 3 other species who wish to establish relations with humans independent of the Galactic Council." Blackwood nodded. "We're aware of your break from the Council. It was a brave decision. A necessary one, replied Harmonious Refraction. But before we proceed with formal introductions, I must ask, how do humans know so much about the Council? About operations that even some Council members are unaware of? Blackwood smiled slightly. We've been watching the Council for decades. Your organization isn't the benevolent entity it claims to be. The luminary's lights pulsed in what might have been a sigh. No, it is not. The Council began with noble intentions thousands of years ago, but over time, the founding principles were corrupted. 3 dominant species now control the Council, using it to maintain their power and resource advantages. The ZKHR, the Voidborn, and the Nexari, Blackwood said. Harmonious Refraction's glow flickered in surprise. You know this as well. We know that they restrict technology to other species. We know they use protected status to extract resources from developing worlds. We know about the experiments conducted on species deemed primitive. We've intercepted communications about all of this. The luminary pulsed thoughtfully. You must have incredibly advanced technology to penetrate Council security. Not exactly, Blackwood said. We found something on the edge of our solar system 70 years ago. An outpost left by an ancient civilization, the one that came before the Council. Now the crystalline being's light patterns became erratic with shock. The Forerunners? You found Forerunner technology? We found their records. Their warnings about what the Council would become. And yes, some of their technology, which we've spent decades studying and adapting. On Earth, in a secure facility beneath the North American continent, Navy Captain Lisa Rodriguez supervised the activation of humanity's most ambitious project yet. The Helios network consisted of quantum-entangled communication nodes that allowed instant contact across vast distances, technology the Council believed was theoretically impossible. Final node coming online, reported her chief engineer, Kevin Martinez. Quantum entanglement stable across all 47 locations. Rodriguez nodded with satisfaction. Begin transmission to our new allies. With the press of a button, humanity shared its secure communication technology with the 4 species that had broken from the Council. For the first time in thousands of years, these civilizations could communicate without the Council monitoring their every word. Back on Mars, Blackwood led Harmonious Refraction to the main diplomatic chamber where representatives from the other 3 breakaway species had arrived. The Aran delegate resembled a floating jellyfish with tendrils of golden light. The Mercanti was a short, 6-armed humanoid with copper-colored skin. The Kuntari looked most like an earth creature, something like a fox with iridescent fur and 6 eyes. Delegates, Blackwood addressed them. Humanity welcomes you to our solar system, not as subjects, not as protectorates, but as equals. Today marks the beginning of a new kind of interstellar cooperation. As the diplomatic meeting proceeded, the remaining Council species prepared for war. Led by the ZKHR, a massive attack fleet assembled, the largest in 5,000 years of Council history. Their target was not just Earth, but all the traitor species who had aligned with humans. General Krath addressed his officers aboard the massive dreadnought that would lead the assault. We will crush this human rebellion, once and for all. Their defiance threatens the very foundation of the Council's authority. If they can refuse our protection, others will follow. But even as the Council war fleet prepared to launch, unexpected reports flooded in from across Council space. On a dozen worlds, populations that had been kept in ignorance of Council politics was suddenly receiving uncensored information. The quantum communication technology shared by humans allowed the breakaway species to bypass Council censors and reach directly to the people. Videos and documents spread rapidly, evidence of Council manipulation, resource theft, and illegal experiments. Public squares filled with protesters. Council representatives found themselves besieged in their own offices, and then, most shocking of all, rebellions erupted on key Council worlds. Minority populations of ZKHR, Voidborn, and Nexari, who had long opposed their government's policies, suddenly found themselves with powerful allies and untraceable communications. In the Council war fleet, General Krath received increasingly desperate messages from his homeworld. Impossible, he muttered. How can they coordinate across such distances without us detecting their communications? His second-in-command approached cautiously. Sir, we've lost contact with the supply depots in the Centauri sector. The colonies in the Rigel system are declaring independence. The fleet is reporting fuel shortages. Krath's feathers flattened. Against his body in anger and fear, the mighty Council war machine was coming apart before they had fired a single shot. Somehow, the humans had accomplished in days what rebel factions had failed to achieve in centuries. They had broken the Council's iron grip on information on Earth. President Powell received the reports with quiet satisfaction. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology, but the truth. By simply revealing the Council's true nature to the galaxy, they had changed the balance of power forever. 6 months after humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, representatives from 20 different worlds gathered in a newly constructed assembly hall in Geneva. Earth, the massive circular chamber featured sections adapted for each species' environmental needs. Luminari floated in anti-gravity fields. Aquari delegates sat in water-filled pods. Aerons drifted in specially designed air currents. Humans moved among them all, no longer the isolated species they had been half a year ago. Colonel Jason Mitchell stood at the central podium, addressing the first formal session of the new Interstellar Cooperative Assembly. At 45, Mitchell had spent his entire career in Earth's intelligence services. He had been one of the first humans to study the ancient records found on Pluto, and now he would reveal humanity's greatest secret to their new allies. Distinguished representatives, Mitchell began, his voice calm and measured. Today marks a historic moment not just for humanity, but for all free species. The old Galactic Council, which sought to control rather than cooperate, has been reduced to just 7 loyal species. The rest of you have chosen a different path. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. Many of you have asked why Earth refused to negotiate with the Council when they first contacted us. Today I will provide that answer. Mitchell activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed images of an ancient structure. Buried beneath the ice of Pluto, Earth's most distant planetary body, 70 years ago, a human research expedition discovered this facility on the edge of our solar system. It had been dormant for nearly 15,000 years, left behind by a civilization that called themselves the Founders. The delegates murmured among themselves. Most species had legends of the Founders, but few believed they had actually existed. The Founders were the original galactic civilization, Mitchell continued. They explored and settled much of our galaxy in peace. They believed in cooperation, knowledge sharing, and the free development of all sentient species. But they encountered a problem. The hologram changed to show 3 familiar species, the ancestors of the Zcathar, Voidborn, and Nexari. These 3 species rejected the Founders' cooperative approach. They believed in hierarchy, control, and the supremacy of their own cultures. Eventually, they rebelled against the Founders, starting a war that lasted centuries. Mitchell paused to let this information sink in. The Founders were not warriors. They eventually withdrew to distant parts of the galaxy, leaving behind warning beacons on thousands of worlds. Earth was one such world. The facility on Pluto contained not just warnings, but detailed records of Council tactics and technologies. In the Aquari section, a blue-skinned delegate raised a webbed hand. Are you saying humans knew about the Council before they contacted you? Yes, Mitchell replied simply. We knew they would eventually find us. We knew they would offer protection. That was really control. We knew they would try to keep us dependent on their technology while harvesting our resources. The Founders' records showed they had done the same to hundreds of species across thousands of years. Now, a Luminari representative pulsed with light as it spoke. This explains your advanced technology. You had access to Founder knowledge? Mitchell nodded. Some, yes. But the Founders didn't just give us technology. They gave us understanding. They showed us that the Council's demand that we negotiate was never about diplomacy. It was about establishing hierarchy, making us acknowledge their superiority by engaging on their terms. He looked around the chamber again. By refusing to negotiate, we forced them to reveal their true nature to their member species. We knew some of you had doubts about council leadership. We knew others were kept in ignorance of council operations. Our goal was never to fight the council, but to break its control over information. In the human diplomatic section, Amy Daniels listened with pride. As Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the stars, she had spent weeks helping to draft the charter for this new assembly. At 38, she had been a diplomatic prodigy, speaking 6 Earth languages before her 20th birthday. Now she was learning to communicate with beings who perceived reality in ways humans had never imagined. After Mitchell concluded his explanation, Daniels walked to the podium to present the proposed charter. The Interstellar Cooperative Assembly will not be like the Council, she began. We will not demand uniformity. We will not control member resources. We will not interfere with cultural development. Instead, we offer 3 simple principles. She held up one finger. First, knowledge belongs to all. Scientific discoveries, historical records, cultural works, all shared freely among members. A second finger joined the first. Second, each species determines its own path. No interference in internal affairs unless requested. A third finger rose. Third, mutual defense. An attack on one member is an attack on all. But we use force only as a last resort, when all diplomatic options are exhausted. As Daniels outlined the details of the charter, representatives nodded and signaled their approval in their various ways. The luminari glowed brighter, the Arons pulsed with golden light. The mercanti clicked their multiple hands together. In a secure communication center beneath the assembly hall, Frank Carter watched the proceedings on a monitor. After decades in the shadows, Earth's intelligence director found it strange to see the truth finally revealed. Next to him stood Admiral Wright, her uniform crisp as always. They're voting on the charter, Wright observed. Looks like unanimous. Approval, Carter nodded. The easy part is done. Now comes the hard work of actually building this alliance. Do you think the remaining council species will accept the non-aggression pact? Wright asked. They don't have much choice, Carter replied. With most of their former members now aligned with us, they've lost their economic and military advantages. They'll sign to buy themselves time, but we'll need to watch them carefully. Wright smiled slightly. You never stop being suspicious, do you, Frank? That's why I'm good at my job, he replied with a rare smile of his own. In what remained of the Galactic Council chamber, Supreme Leader Rax Vuur faced the grim reality of defeat. More than 2/3 of Council worlds had joined the new human-led assembly, trade routes were disrupted, military bases had been abandoned. The mighty empire that had stood for 12,000 years had crumbled in less than a year. We have no choice but to accept their terms, he told the representatives of the 7 remaining loyal species. The non-aggression pact allows us to maintain our sovereignty while we rebuild. General Krath, his golden feathers now dull with stress, hissed in anger. We should fight to the last ship. These humans have destroyed everything we built. No, Rax Vuur said firmly. The humans merely exposed what we have become. Perhaps in time we can learn from this defeat and build something better. Back on Earth, President Powell watched the assembly session from the Oval Office. On his desk sat reports from colonies throughout the solar system and beyond. Humanity was expanding faster than anyone had predicted, helped by technology shared by their new allies. Trade agreements were being finalized. Cultural exchanges were already underway. Earth's long isolation was truly over. His secretary announced the arrival of Dr. Olivia Martinez, who had led the Europa Defense Project during the Council's failed attack. Dr. Martinez, Powell greeted her warmly. I understand. Congratulations are in order. The Assembly has approved your proposed joint research initiative. Martinez nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. 17 species working together on clean energy technology. It would have taken humanity centuries to develop these systems on our own. And yet, we might never have formed these alliances. If we had accepted the Council's initial offer, Powell mused. Sometimes the hardest path leads to the best destination. As the first day of the assembly session concluded, Ambassador Daniel stood with harmonious refraction on a balcony overlooking Lake Geneva. The crystalline being pulsed with gentle blue light in the evening air. Here Colonel Mitchell spoke. Of the founders retreating to distant parts of the galaxy, the luminary said. You believe they still exist somewhere? Daniel smiled. Perhaps the records we found were incomplete. But whether they exist or not, their legacy continues through this assembly. Because of humanity's courage to say no, harmonious refraction chimed softly, one simple word that changed the galaxy. Daniels looked up at the darkening sky, where the first stars were becoming visible. The Council believed that power came from control. We believed it comes from cooperation. In the end, that made all the difference. Across Earth and throughout human colonies, people celebrated the formation of the new assembly. For generations, humans had looked to the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they knew they were part of something much larger, not subjects of an empire, but equal members of a galactic community. And it had all begun because humanity had the courage to refuse an offer that seemed too good to be true. In the coming years, the assembly would face many challenges. The former council species would not accept their reduced status easily. Disputes would arise between new allies still learning to understand each other.